What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic: Terrence Crawford can defend both the 147-pound and the 154-pound belts at the same time, and he should do it. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life for riches, huh? That life for riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. We're gonna chop it up. All right, so we're gonna talk about the Terrence Crawford situation. As you all know, Terrence Crawford is the WBO 147-pound champion, and he's been trying to get some signature fights at 147 pound, but it seems like none of the guys at 147 welterweight, they want to fight him. I mean, we all know the drill. I mean, he's been trying to get a fight with Errol Spence now for the past 3 years. Errol Spence doesn't want that fight. He's been basically ducking the fight for the past 3 years. We heard Sean Porter said that he wanted to fight Terrence Crawford. Unfortunately, he just refused a $2 million offer from Top Rank to take the fight. We saw Keith Thurman said that he would like a fight with Crawford, but he wanted $10 million, and then he supposedly came down on his offer. Nobody knows what that offer was. It wasn't made public. But eventually we saw Keith Thurman ended up cursing out Bob Arum, calling him a cheapskate, and a lot of names that we can't even mention. He basically just cursed Bob Arum out, so we know that fight is not going to happen from that end. Who else? Danny Garcia doesn't want to fight Terrence Crawford. As a matter of fact, we just saw Danny Garcia recently. Him and Terrence Crawford was together at the CANELO fight, and Danny was talking about so we know that also Terrence Crawford was supposedly they're negotiating a fight with Manny Pacquiao, right? We all know about that. That's been off and on, off again, on again for the past couple of years now. Recently, Manny Pacquiao said he wanted to fight Crawford, but last year he said he wanted $20 million. This year he's saying he wants $40 million. The only problem with that is that last year he had a belt. This year he has no belt. As you all know, he got stripped by the WBA. He's now champion in recess, so to speak, with just a euphemism for being stripped. But he's Pacquiao, so they don't want to just say they stripped him. But anyway, the bottom line is he doesn't really have a belt, even though Crawford is willing to take the fight, belt or no belt. But so far, that fight hasn't actually materialized yet. Okay, and so we're waiting to see what's going to happen with that. Based on the track record so far. For the past couple of years, I've been willing to bet that fight is not going to happen. I don't think. I'm pretty sure maybe Manny might want to fight, but I think his advisors are probably telling him that's not a fight to take because, Crawford is basically at his prime right now, and Manny's on the downside of 40 years old. But I mean, it's a big money fight if it was to happen because we're hearing talk of $50 million, 40 for Manny, 10 for Crawford. So I mean, I would get in the ring with Crawford for $10 million or even $40 million. I mean 40 or even $10 million, I would get in the ring. So maybe we might end up getting Manny in that ring for that $40 million. It's a lot of money to turn down. I don't think Manny would turn down that kind of money. I'm willing to bet he'll probably fight anybody for that kind of bread. But again, we don't know if that fight is happening. I mean, supposedly they're in negotiation. Also, we're hearing that Terrence Crawford is supposedly was in negotiation with Sean Porter for that fight. But again, we heard that Sean Porter turned down a $2 million offer, which is the biggest money Sean Porter has made in any fight except for his unification bout with Errol Spence, where he made the same amount, which was $2 million. Okay, so why he's turned down $2 million against Crawford, I have no idea. I mean, but I'm willing to bet that he probably sees that as not enough money to go in there against a guy like Crawford, who's a pound for pound #1 fighter in the world currently, according to many people. So that's the state of things right now for Crawford, the welterweight. He hasn't really got any big fights at welterweight because nobody seems like they want to go in there and take him on. I mean, he's the safest champion I've ever seen at 147 pounds. Nobody is willing to really go in there and challenge him, So maybe some of the younger guys coming up might want to do it. We don't know. We're hearing talk about Virgil Ortiz, but I don't think. I mean, a lot of people don't think Virgil Ortiz is ready, or neither do I. I mean, there's also Ennis, but again, that's maybe that's Crawford fight might be a little bit too soon for him as well. So we don't know if those guys are willing to step in there against a Crawford. I mean, then you also have, the Ramirez, who's the 140-pound unified champ, as well as Taylor, Josh, who's also the 140-pound unified champ. Those guys are supposed to be fighting each other, and maybe the winner might want to go up and fight Crawford. But all that is just speculation. Nobody knows where that's going to be, in the time, in the near future. So we don't really know. We're just speculating on those fights. But I would think that, Crawford at this point should consider moving up to 154 pounds and taking on the champ up there, one of the champs. I mean, you have Charlo as unified champ. He has 3 of the belts, WBA, WBC, and IBF. And you also have Brian Castano, who just won the title from Patrick Teixeira a couple weeks ago, actually. So maybe that would be a good fight, possibly. I mean, Crawford can go up, take on Castano, because if he goes up to the 154 pounds, he could challenge for the title immediately against Castano, and that would give him the 154-pound belt if he was able to win. Able to win that fight. I mean, Castano is no pushover, so that's going to be a tough fight. But if he's able to snatch the belt away from Castano, then he'll be at 154 pounds. He'll be a champ at 154 pounds and champ at 147. Now, I think that he can probably hold on to both belts at the same time. There's only a 7-pound difference between 154 and 147. So basically what he'd have to do is, just stay at his 147-pound weight and, fight that at that weight at 154 pounds. I mean, Mayweather used to do that. I mean, Mayweather did that when he was champion at 147. He held the 154-pound title as well, but he just go into the fights. When he go into a fight, he weigh like about 150, okay? So, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to hold on to both of those belts at the same time. It's not like there's a lot of, big difference in weight. So I'm pretty sure he could keep his 147-pound frame and, weight and still fight at 154 pounds. I mean, I don't see, I don't think that's impossible. But, we don't know. But, I mean, I would think that would be the best thing to do. But, again, there's not that many fights at 154 pounds. I mean, if you was to go up there and take the 154-pound belt, that is Crawford, from Castano, or maybe he could challenge Jamal Charlo, but I don't think Jamal Charlo would want to fight Crawford for the 3 belts at 154 pounds. I'm thinking that probably wouldn't happen. And then even if Crawford was to go up at 154 and win the title up there and then challenge Jamal Charlo, I'm kind of thinking that fight would still not happen. Okay, I'm not sure Charlo would take that fight. Then again, you never know. I mean, maybe Charlo is different than Spence, and he'd actually want the smoke. We all know Spence don't want the smoke, and the reason why I would think Crawford should hold on to his belt at 147 is that he doesn't give Errol Spence a free pass. okay, you know, to take the belt from someone else that would take the belt at 147. So that's why he should hold on to the belt at 147 and also move up and get the 154-pound belt as well and hold on to both belts. That way, you know, he'd be blocking undisputed at both weights, 147 and 154. As a matter of fact, he could actually become 100 become undisputed at 154 and 147. But again, you know, that's going to be dependent on Spence at 147. And we already know Spence don't want that fight at 147. I mean, that's clear by now to even a blind man. Okay, Spence came up with all kind of excuse for not taking a fight. Now the question we have to ask ourselves is that if Crawford was to move up to get the 154-pound title from Castano, would Jermell Charlo do the same thing Spence is doing? Would he, you know, opt out or opt not to fight Crawford? Would he duck Crawford at 154 pounds? I don't know. I mean, they're, you know, both Spence and Charlo's in the same camp. Okay, so maybe they might decide. Maybe he might decide that he doesn't want any smoke with Crawford. But I'm thinking that maybe Charlo Jermell is made from a different cloth than Errol Spence. Okay, but then again, you never know. They, you know, who knows? But I'm thinking that Charlo might just take that fight with Crawford. I mean, he's looking for a big fight right now, and so a big fight, you know, would be him and Crawford at 154. It would be definitely be bigger than Charlo against Castano at 154. Okay, that's a fight, but I don't think that's as big a fight as Charlo and Crawford at 154. You know, Charlo and Castano is a big fight because it would be a fight for undisputed. But I think if it was Crawford, he was fighting for the undisputed instead of Castano, I think that would make it a even bigger fight because we already know that Crawford was a undisputed at 140. Okay, and then there's a possibility of him becoming undisputed at 147 as well, if you know, if they could ever get Errol Spence in the ring. Again, would Charlo take the fight at 154 with Terrence Crawford? We don't know. I mean, they've had some words previously, and you know, it's a possibility when Crawford had said that don't let him come up to 154 and show Jermell Charlo who the real king of the jungle is, because it wasn't no lion. Okay, and then, you know, Jermell Charlo, you know, basically, you know, said that you know, he's not worried about Crawford really. So you know, it would be a good fight, I would think. I mean, I don't know if, you know, Jermell is a big guy. You know, he's a big 154 pounder. So Crawford is a big guy at 147 pounds. As a matter of fact, let's take another look at Crawford. As Jermell Charlo, but you know, I think he's, you know, probably almost as thick as him. So yeah, that would be a great fight. You know, fight him and, you know, Crawford and Charlo fighting for unification. Now the question would be, would Charlo accept the fight from Crawford directly from 147? Would he, you know, would Crawford be able to just move up and fight Charlo? Would Charlo accept that fight, or would Charlo want Crawford to beat Castano first and then challenge him to a fight, and then he would take the fight? We don't know how that would play out, but I would think that, you know, Charlo would probably want to get Charlo would probably want him to fight Castano first and get Castano out the way, you know, which is probably only right. I mean, you know, because I mean, again, you know, I don't really see, you know, Charlo talking about Castano. I will actually be with Texera before Castano took the title. I didn't hear any talk about undisputed at 154 pounds. Really, I mean, it didn't seem like Charlo was actually pursuing that fight. Okay, and it doesn't seem like he's actually pursuing Castano either. I mean, I've heard commentators talk about the fight, but I haven't heard anything from Charlo himself, or even from Castano. But no, when Castano did take the title, he did mention the fact that he wanted to take on uh, Charlo, for the undisputed. But I'm not sure Charlo was was responsive to that call out, and I haven't heard Castano, call him out anymore. It just seemed like he just mentioned it when he got to Thailand, and that was that. So maybe Castano decided to change his mind. Maybe he wants to defend the title and fight a couple of fights first, and then maybe fight Charlo for the undisputed, or who knows. But I don't hear much talk about undisputed at 154 pounds, just like I don't hear much talk about undisputed at 147 from Errol Spence. I mean, he was all talk. Errol Spence was all talk before Terrence Crawford came to 147 pounds. He was talking about unifying, about undisputed. But since Crawford came to 147 pounds, Errol Spence basically, all the talk of unification and undisputed and man down, that kind of went into hiding, and we haven't heard from that until recently, where man down came out of hiding and was talking about fighting Denis Ugas, for another unification bout, but we don't hear the same energy to unify with Crawford from Spence that we see that he had for Denis Ugas. So it looks like there's a lot of confusion going on at 147 pounds and not much going on at 154 pounds. I mean, basically, Charlo has all three belts, and he hasn't really been doing anything with those belts. I mean, he hasn't really fought anybody since he won the belts, and we don't hear any talk of any fights going on up there. So we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he's got a mandatory coming up soon, because he has three belts, so there should be a mandatory fight coming up for him soon. So so maybe that's what's in the pipeline for Charlo. But again, I'm thinking that Crawford, at this point, should move up to 154 pounds, challenge Castano for the belt, and still hold on to his belt at 147 pounds. Okay, still keep both belts at the same time. He could do that. I mean, that would be a good thing to do, and that would give him some some leverage, at 154 pounds and at 147 pounds. So, that's my thoughts on the matter. You guys could let me know what you think about it. I mean, I think that would be an interesting thing, a fight between Crawford and Castano, or a fight between Charlo and Crawford. Both of those fights would be interesting fights. And if Crawford could hold on to both the 154-pound belt and the 147-pound belt, that would be another, great thing to do. We already, I mean, it would give him a lot of leverage. And if he can unify, become undisputed at 154 pounds, that would be spectacular. So let's see what happens. I mean, we already know, like I said, that Spence is not going to fight Crawford. I mean, that's becoming, more apparent every day. So we don't know what Spence is going to do. We don't know what's going on with the fight between him and, the so-called negotiation between him and Denis Ugas. If there is a negotiation, it's conceivable that Ugas could end up fighting Crawford for that unification, but we don't know what's going on with that. So we'll see how all of that plays out. But there's a lot of things at play at 147 that could happen. There's Manny Pacquiao, there's Ugas, Spence, and Crawford. So there's a lot of stuff that could, kick off at 147. But so far, not much is happening. So we'll see how everything plays out. But again, I like the idea of Crawford moving up, fighting either Castano or Charlo, at 154 pounds, and then holding on to both belts at 147 pounds and at 154 pounds. But let's see what happens. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. This is TBE Boxing. I'm out.